On this edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum, our special guest today is Roger Brown from the Union Leader, and also his websites, the NewHampshireHardball.com and NewHampshireFootballReport.com, and Coach Bill Taylor. Welcome aboard, gentlemen. Roger and I attended the NHIAA Division I and II championship games that took place at Lundholm Gymnasium at UNH, and it was a marathon, 4 games, and well, some really great basketball, Roger.
Yeah, the first 3 games were terrific, right down to the wire. The 4th one was not close, but I don't think that was a surprise. Those Hanover girls are terrific. But if you're a basketball fan or a high school basketball fan, you got your money's worth if you hung around for those first 3 games. All just fabulous games. One went to overtime. At least one went to overtime. Two, I guess, right? And right down to the last second. You can't ask for much more than that.
Although the opener was 10 o'clock in the morning, the Division I boys game, and that to me was the Cadillac matchup. You had the Trinity Pioneers, number 1 seed, going up Goffstown Grizzlies. Where were they seeded? 3 in the tourney or 4?
Yeah, Goffstown was 3.
3.
National North was 2. Yeah,
I had seen both of those teams play against the Blue Hawks here at Exeter, and I just, when I saw Trinity, and they came in because they had some health issues, and with only 10 players, they took us to school, and I could tell that they were the team to beat. And this kid, the coach's son, Tyler Bike, who is their quarterback of the basketball team, he was really impressive. I mean, Exeter had some good runs against them. The Blue Hawks had some good runs, but when it came down to crunch time, Bike and the Pioneers just locked it in. So anyway, that was the championship game for D1, 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was kind of like, these kids, how are they going to react to being this early in the morning? And Coach, you had hit upon it. When you're going for the gold, when you're going for the championship, no matter what time of the day or night, you're ready to play, right?
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
As a coach, you said that you just basically don't overdo it, especially since it's that early morning start. You just get kids into a good frame of mind, get the shots down, and then say, okay, let's play ball.
Well, and both teams shot well over 50%. Usually teams don't shoot well in Durham. For whatever reason, unfamiliarity or what have you. But in this game, despite being early, they both had terrific field goal percentages for the game. So
yeah, they did.
It didn't seem to affect play at all in a negative way.
And the Grizzlies, they played us tough here at Exeter, and their quarterback of their team, Rob Bagidi, he took charge for the Grizzlies, both here when he played the Blue Hawks and over at Lundholm. I mean, it was a slobber knocker. Trinity was leading. Looked like maybe they'd break away. Goffstown came roaring back. And another key factor, we didn't get to see him play here at Exeter, but he was a factor over in Lundholm, was Peyton Strickland, their center, who also is going to be one of the tight ends for the UNH Wildcats in the fall. So that was kind of interesting to see him show his muscle there, literally.
Yeah, he played a good game. Goffstown was less than full strength almost the whole season. They had numerous guys out for a variety of reasons, but they finally came together and were at 100% at the end of the year. And, Strickland, I thought he gave him a lot. He's an off the bench kid, but he gave him a lot on Sunday. And, of course, the key play was the technical that was called on him that I didn't get to see. I was typing. A lot of people question it, of course. But, it's just such a huge call at that point in the game, right? It's a championship game. It's tight. It's late. And you're going to give one team 4 free throws in the ball. That's a lot to overcome. Now, if it's warranted, fine. And I'm not saying it was or wasn't. I didn't see the play. Again, I think it was a block shot, on the play. So I was scribbling it down in my notes. And I looked up and there were T and, Strickland. but if it was not the right call, that's a tough one at that point in the season and in that game.
I thought it might have been something he said, but watching the replay of the game later, Strickland kind of brushed up against Bike, and Bike sold it by going down to the hardwood. And I have to give the officials credit. The game started to heat up at the end, and the referees just didn't want to lose control of the game.
Good point. Despite all that, I don't want to take anything away from Trinity because, despite the technical and anything else that may have gone on that was controversial, Goffstown did have the ball with a chance to win or tie, with 10 seconds to go in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Bike made the play, with a steal and ran out the clock. So, despite everything, Goffstown was still in position to win the championship, with a field goal there at the end, or at least force overtime.
The Division II boys game, that was a slobber knocker as well. It went to overtime. It was Sauhegan versus Conval.
Yeah, and two even teams from what I saw. Conval, kid threw up a half-court shot that went in and out at the buzzer at the end of regulation that would have won it for him. That would have been about as dramatic as you can get. I would say of all the teams I saw that day that came up on the losing end, I was most impressed with Conval. I thought they played just terrific team basketball.
A lot of talent in Division I basketball for the boys. Do you think, Roger, that Trinity is going to have a challenge defending their title next season?
Oh, yeah. There's going to be, as you mentioned, Sherm, I think you hit it on the head there. There's, two of Goffstown's best players are coming back. They're going to have a good cast. Pinkerton's best two players, or three players, I guess you could argue, will be back. It's not going to be easy for Trinity next year. They do lose one senior, but they only had three seniors on their roster. They start three sophomores. So they're going to enter the season as the team to beat, assuming they all stay together next year. But we should be in for a good Division I season next year. There is a lot of talent returning on a lot of teams.
Who is the big guy for Pinkerton? Who is that big center they've got? He can shoot.
Marshall.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was very impressed.
He's good under the hoop, and not a lot of big men out there these days. But
I
he
know.
can do it near the rim, or he can, as he showed against Portsmouth, he stepped out behind the 3-point line and made 3-pointers on 3 consecutive trips down the court.
Yeah, I saw that when they were in the.
I can give you second thoughts on how you want to defend them.
Now, Coach Taylor, if you have a team with height, how do you, as an opponent, address that?
Well, I don't know if you can compensate for height, but what you try and do is, okay, do they want to play the game fast?
Mm-hmm.
Do they want to play the game slow? So you try to tailor your defense to making them do something they don't want to do. You've got to take the ball out of his hands somehow. If you're in a half-court situation, do you play a box and one? Do you play two in a triangle?
Mm-hmm.
Do you play some kind of matchup zone where you have somebody looking to deny him all the time? If they want to slow it down, do you run some kind of maybe a full court press or maybe a half court trap where you take the ball, try to get the ball out of his hands so that he doesn't beat you?
Okay.
It's what the issue is you want to try and make their players who are not as good shooters try to beat you. And at times it works, at times it doesn't.
Now, height doesn't necessarily mean success. So how do you work to make a big player better, Coach?
Well, there are all kinds of agility drills that you can do to try and make a person more agile and to improve their footwork. And by the way, that was something I was going to interject on. I don't know if Roger's aware of this, but oftentimes college coaches would scout football players playing basketball because they wanted to check their feet.
Mm.
Did they have good footwork? Could they run?
Mm.
Were they agile? Could they change directions quickly? And, they looked at that. So it wasn't just strictly football that they were scouted on. They wanted to check on their agility, and watching them play basketball was a perfect way to do that.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
The other thing is what you've got to do is you've got to, in today's day and age, everybody wants to shoot the three-pointer, and that's great. But the thing is, with a big guy who is just learning the game after your agility drills, you got to get him close to the basket, work on, there are all kinds of rebounding drills, blocking out drills that they can go on. But then, okay, can he catch the ball? Can he drop step and lay it in?
Yeah.
So you have some basic drills that you work on that even if they're starting as a freshman coming in, if they have size, you got to remember, you can't teach size.
Correct.
And you just go from there.
The three-point shot has changed basketball forever. I'm not a fan of it, I have to admit, especially in the schoolboy game.
I agree with you, Sherm. Personally, I'm not. I don't like the three-point. I mean, I understand the value of the three-point shot, but I'm not a fan of it. And if when you watch, high school kids are going to watch professional basketball, or they're going to watch college basketball. And what you're seeing a lot, especially in the pro game, is isolation, where guys just run to a spot on the floor, they spread the floor, they try to run a pick and roll, and one guy just isolates with the basketball and fires it up. And I don't know. That's not my brand of basketball.
In my opinion, the inside game is where it's at on offense, and obviously defense wins the game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no more so than the Trinity game that we mentioned. It was a steal, right? That was one of the biggest plays. Defense won it for them. And, when you talk about driving to the basket, Sherm, I was very impressed with the Bishop and girls in that respect. They took the ball to the hoop and got fouled. And, I mean, time and time again. And it wasn't just their point guard, Brooke Paquette, who did it at the end and kind of took over. I think she made 7 free throws in the last minute and a half or something, but they had several girls, just not afraid to attack the basket and draw fouls. Not to say the boys didn't do that as well, but Girton really impressed me in that area in their victory.
Another sore spot for me, free throws, missing them. That's losing points on the scoreboard. And of course, it makes a difference.
And free throws are important because, like you said, two big things on free throws. Number one, they're free and they're not contested. And number two, especially if you're trailing, the clock is stopped. So they are a way to get yourself back in the game without the clock moving. So, because when you're behind, the clock is your enemy.
Right.
Kids are too busy with the three-pointer, coach, right? They can't make the close ones because they don't practice them. They're all behind the line,
Right. No, you're right.
And I just want to say, end of the game management, kudos to all the teams involved in the championship series, management of fouls at the end of the game. It's imperative to know where you're at and to keep the other team from going to the free throw line.
Trinity I think they had a free throw there right at the end that would have put them up 3. And then we would have had the, do you foul or not situation. And, their coach, Keith Bike, said they were definitely going to foul and put Goss down at the line. So who knows how that would have turned out, but it would have sparked some good conversation about strategy, regardless.
Well, overall, it was a long but a great day of basketball at Lundholm Gymnasium in Durham. And kudos to the people at the NHIAA and the folks at UNH for putting on a great event, Championship Sunday. Coach, I want to jump to hockey. Bring us up to speed with the Exeter Blue Hawk girls team.
Coming into the past 2 weeks, Exeter girls had 2 wins. They're a very young team, but in the past 2 weeks, we have now won 4 games in a row, including 2 upsets, including last night. We defeated Pinkerton 6-3, and Sherm, it was a heck of a game. It was back and forth, both teams, great goaltending, both teams, skating, passing. And remember, in the girls' game, it can be physical, but there's no checking against the boards.
Right.
And so there was a lot of skill showed, and Mackenzie Babine had 5 goals in the game. And we were down 2-0 after one period, even though we had outshot Pinkerton 2-1.
Wow.
We had twice as many shots as they did. I think it was 14-7 at the end of the first. And but then Babine scored 3 in a row to put us up 3-2 going into the third. They tied it and kind of looked like a goal that bounced in off a player's body, and to tie it up 3-3, and then lightning struck. Babine scored again. Lily Blood scored, and then we scored an empty netter at the end. It was great to see. The Blue Hawks earlier in the week had gone to Lebanon and beat a good Lebanon team 4-2. Same idea. So the girls' ice hockey program, now it's a shame this didn't happen earlier, but it did. And there were a lot of reasons why. COVID,
Right.
not just on Exeter, but on other schools where games were canceled. And boy, they come together at the right time. We have a big game tonight against Manchester Central, and if we win that, I think we're in.
Good.
We're going to make the playoffs.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, the hockey teams are playing a regular season that ends in March, as opposed to the basketball had the accelerated season this year. So I guess my question to you, Roger, is do you think that the accelerated season worked, and will it come back next year?
Well, you got to remember that when we say basketball, half the state didn't go to the shortened schedule. They said, no, thank you. We still have Division III and Division IV playoffs going on right now. So it's not like the whole state shortened their season.
Okay.
It was mostly, I think, the Division I and II ADs, and the smaller schools just looked at that and said, "You guys are nuts," And then I think once the season started, all the Division I and II people agreed with the Division III and IV people. And it didn't take long. I'm sure it's going to go back to a maybe not as lengthy of a season as it has been in the past, but I'd be very surprised if we see a short season like this again. Very few people liked it. You could argue that it was good. I don't want to bring up the COVID subject because it's so touchy with everybody, but maybe with people getting, not being able to play because of it, it was good to get a group of games, in a short amount of time. But you could argue that if you were out, you missed a third of your schedule, if you just missed a week or two as well. So both sides of the coin there. But I didn't see any benefit to it. With less practice time. I didn't, tougher to make up games. I didn't see any real benefit.
I agree with Roger. I don't see a benefit, really. I know they're trying to give kids a break, but I think if you talk to the athletes, they want the practice time and they want to get better at their skill and they want to play. I mean, most kids, they want to play all year long. So I agree. I don't see the benefit in doing that. I certainly hope hockey doesn't do it. I don't think they could because, again, schools don't. In basketball, schools have their own gyms.
Mm-hmm.
In hockey, schools don't have their own rinks.
Right.
So they're relying on a town rink or a public rink or a private rink or whatever.
Mm.
But, hockey could never do it.
I haven't spoken to you gentlemen in a couple of weeks. The Super Bowl, just wanted to get your take on the game and the ads. Let's start off with you, Roger.
A good game. I was happy there was a close game. I didn't come away feeling like either team was anything extraordinary. So long ago, I kind of forget how it unfolded there, to be honest with you, Sherm. But, boiled down to, I guess, Cincinnati's inability to protect quarterback, in the second half. But I thought it was entertaining. I go into the Super Bowl rooting for a close game more than anything, avoid a blowout, and I'm happy. And the ads are becoming less and less important to me. I don't know. I guess I missed a lot of the good ones because I read about them in the paper the next day, and I was like, I don't remember seeing this. So either I wasn't paying attention or they didn't stand out to me.
What about you, Coach? Your take on the Super Bowl and the advertisements?
Well, you know what? I'm going to do it vice versa. I'm kind of like Roger. I watched the ads, but nothing really stood out to me. I didn't, You
didn't want to run out and buy Bitcoin?
No, I did not. And you know what? The Super Bowl halftime show lasted in our house about a minute. And then we turned the sound down and waited till the game came back.
Well, I was eating.
But the game, I mean, my take on it, I wish they would have made the MVP a co-MVP. Cooper Kupp was huge down the stretch. I agree. Mm-hmm. But boy, was he any more or less important than Aaron Donald?
Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen a defensive lineman be named co-MVP because he was a dominant player.
Good point.
On the field.
Good point.
And I think he deserved the recognition. I thought, don't get me wrong, Kupp was great. I mean, he was clutch.
Yeah. No
but
doubt about
it. And I agree with Roger. Cincinnati's got to start spending some draft choices on offensive linemen. Amen. Because
there's a swinging door.
The statistic that people forget, as good as Cincinnati and Joe Burrow were, he got sacked more than any other quarterback.
Right.
During the year. And, he's got to be able to hold up. So they've got to protect him.
Roger, anything on the New Hampshire Schoolboy Division I football schedule for 2022 that you've heard about?
A few snags here lately. So the schedules are still being worked on.
Okay.
This has gone quite a bit longer than people had hoped. So no news to report there.
Okay.
Well, I heard something, Roger, for you. Just you're talking about schedules. Exeter has, I guess they couldn't play Bishop Gert.
No, I'm just going to stop you right there, Coach. They could have, but they're not going to. And that's part of the...
You're playing a Vermont school.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the details on NewHampshireFootballReport.com.
Well, I don't understand the comings or goings, but that's what I was told. And so I looked at that.
I won't tell you who found that Vermont School for Exeter, but somebody did a good job in that regard. The long and short of it with BG is, and I'll try and be brief because this gets complicated, but everybody has a bye week this year. A lot of schools will be playing out-of-state opponents, which do not count for New Hampshire. Like Pinkerton is playing Brockton. So somebody pointed out that if you played a New Hampshire opponent during your bye week, they claimed you had an unfair advantage because that game would count. Now, people understand it's not like if you have 6 wins and I have 5, you get to go to the playoffs. It's a point rating system, so it's all based on the number of countable games. You divide by that number, so it all comes out in the wash. And of course, if you play a 9th game, there's always the possibility that you're going to lose, and there's no advantage to losing. You would go backwards in the standings. So I just think that's a bunch of you know what, and denied an opportunity for a good game, because I would say BG and Exeter will be among the top 4 teams in the state next year, would be my guess. And I'm going on too long here, I know, but we're going to play more games this year. The season's extended, more games, yada, yada, and it's just not turning out that way.
Shifting gears, literally, Coach, let's go to NASCAR. I saw the replay of the Daytona 500. Your impression of what went on, and also tell me about those next-gen cars.
Restrictor plate racing takes a certain skill, and it also, I mean, if people have ever seen a race live, you would marvel at the speeds that they drive and how close they are to each other all the time. And
sounds like the Exeter High parking lot when school gets up.
On your mark, get set, check flag.
There you go. You're right, Roger. But, the Penske company, they do a good job. The Fords, what happens now in restrictor plate racing for the most part is manufacturers work together and until the end of the race. And then it becomes whoever's going to push you the most for the longest time and under control will make the difference.
Okay.
And I mean, I was happy.
First time
my guy didn't win. He finished 4th. He gave a big push to Cindric.
Yeah.
Cindric blocked him at the end. Yep. What?
Yeah. First timer for a win in the Cup race, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Austin Cindric. Right. And he took Keselowski's car, and Now the next gen car, I think next week and the upcoming weeks will tell us more about the next gen car as to how it will race. I mean, it's supposed to equalize the playing field. So even teams with small budgets or do not have a large stable of cars in their team should be able to compete with the bigger boys like Penske, Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, etc. I don't know. I don't know because I haven't seen them really race other than the restrictor plate. So I think we'll know more about the next gen car. I'll say this. It's changed pit stops a lot because in the past where you had to have 5 lug nuts, now you have 1 lug nut.
That's what I was going to ask you about. I see. I hadn't picked up on that. And what was it? 2 or 3 cars? The wheels flew off the tire on one of them.
Oh yeah, well, right.
They just didn't tighten up.
They have to make sure that it's locked in.
Yeah.
When they do it, but they should be able to because it's not as long as a procedure. With the 5 lug nuts, that took longer.
Well, the equipment truck snuck out of Fenway Park with no fanfare this season, heading to Florida with the equipment for spring training. But spring training and the Major League Baseball season right now are in jeopardy with the player owner impasse. Roger, what's your take on that?
Fans are leaving left and right, and this is probably the worst thing that could have happened to them. They can't get out of their own way, you know.
Yeah.
It's a sport that's really hurting.
It is
And,
losing audience every day. It takes, I just don't understand it. I don't, as a baseball fan, I'm like, wow, talk about, killing any golden goose that was out there anymore. It's gone. I mean, it's sad.
and all the changes I hear are silly, to me anyways. I don't think they're helping themselves is the long and short of it for me. Sure.
Well, folks can catch up on the New Hampshire Schoolboy Baseball on your website. That's newhampshirehardball.com. Coach, your take on the MLB situation.
I've made the statement before. I think it's the millionaires battling the billionaires. And I don't really, if that's what they want to do, go for it, I guess. I don't know, will I go back and watch the Sox when they come back? Yeah. But what they need to do is they need to do something about the pace of the game. I think we're going to see something happen in the next week because the owners have gone on record as saying they are not going to, if games are not played, they are going to be canceled and not made up. So they're not going to do it with the 7-inning double headers.
Yeah.
So what that means is if you are a baseball player, Major League Baseball player, you are going to start losing 1/162nd of your salary for every game that is not played. So I think that is going to spur both the owners and the players to make concessions and end this foolish strike and get them both back on the field.
I hope so.
Because when you start losing money, and they said that the owners weren't worried about losing spring training games because they don't make a lot of money out of that.
2-minute drill time. Roger, lead us off.
Two things, Sherm. Shout out to the I guess the dynasty of NHIA sports right now, which is the Exeter Unified Basketball Team.
Yeah.
Won another title. I may be wrong, but I think it's 6 in a row.
I believe
Maybe
so.
I'm wrong about that.
I believe you're right, yeah.
So congratulations to them. Too bad they didn't get a chance to play at Durham, as I think you mentioned to me earlier.
I did.
But, still, championship's a championship no matter where it's played. And my other thing real quick, Sherm, is I know it was a long day for those of us who had worked those 4 games at UNH, but I'd like to see more sports at the high school level play those championships at one venue one day. Of course, I'm really talking about football mostly. Even if we could just do Division 1 and 2 at the same location.
Mm-hmm.
But even when they have the baseball and the hockey, baseball at where the Fisher Cats play, it's been interrupted in recent years. They've had to play 2 on one day and then 2 on a Monday night.
Right.
It's a great day when you have 4 games lined up and
Mm-hmm.
fans stay and see other divisions, and it adds to the atmosphere. So, I just like to see that. I know a few people that hung around, Division I boys fans hung around for later games and vice versa. And it's just a good day to showcase your product, and I like it when they do it that way.
You're absolutely right, Roger. It's 6 championships in a row, a dynasty for that Exeter Blue Hawk Unified team and the coach, Sharon Orchard. So congratulations, gang. And we hope to see you over at UNH next season. Coach, you're up on the 2-minute drill.
Well, what I would like to, again, I'm going to mention girls ice hockey. Doesn't get a lot of publicity. Give it a chance, people. It's a very exciting game. It's just like boys ice hockey without the checking. And I know the girls would love to see the stands as full as possible when they play. There was a great, pretty good crowd yesterday for the game with Pinkerton, and people loved it, loved the game. I mean, it was high-paced. It was exciting. It was athletes are athletes, whether they're male or female. They were getting up and down the ice at a rapid speed.
Well, for my 2-minute drill, I guess the only thing disappointing for me about what happened at Championship Sunday over at Lundholm is getting home after being there for 4 games, tuning on the 11 o'clock news, anticipating seeing some coverage, and basically being totally shocked. That night featured Bruins. The Bruins were the leadoff story. And then they went to an interview with their coach, Cassidy. Then they went to an interview with David Pasternak. And then they went from that to a little blurb about Jason Tatum and the NBA All-Star game. And then they finally got to the tournament. They showed the Bishop Girton Cardinal girls and their championship win over Bedford. But that was it. They put up a scoreboard with the division winners and congratulated them. And that was it. And I'm going like, well, come on, this is a big day for statewide sports. And I know, having been in the broadcasting business for a long time, that now with television, every minute counts, every second counts, and sports, unfortunately, on a 1 to 10 basis, gets to 11 on time. The weather is probably the most important thing. It really is in New England, so they get the biggest chunk of change and chunk of time. So the people that do the sports on Channel 9 have to make do with what they got. But the disappointment is when you have some big event like the championships, feature that as your lead story. It's local or state, yeah, that's primo. I know they like to feature different athletes that have done big things. Hometown Hero, good feature. They do the Friday Night Lights, great feature. I know it takes a lot of effort to put those pieces together, but I'd rather watch that than watch a recap of what happened for Boston sports. I can get that on Channel 4 or Channel 5 if I really want the in-depth Boston take. And the same thing, if I really want the details, I'll read a column like Rogers' column or Rogers' coverage in the Union Leader or on his websites. So I guess they dropped the ball literally, and I kind of felt bad, and I thought, well, maybe Monday they'll make up for it. No, they didn't. It's sad. I don't understand who makes those final decisions at Channel 9. All right, gentlemen, it is time to adjourn. Thank you to our special guest today, Roger Brown from the Union Leader, and also his 2 websites, NewHampshireHardball.com. Baseball season coming up soon, we hope, at least on the schoolboy side of things it will. And also he has NewHampshireFootballReport.com. And thanks also to the coach, Bill Taylor. I'm Sherm Chester, inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum. Be sure to subscribe to Exeter TV on YouTube and hit the bell to get notified about new episodes of the Seacoast Sports Forum and other local content. Follow the Sports Forum team behind the scenes on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and send us your game footage and photos to our email. That's seacoastsportsforum.extv@gmail.com. This is Sherm Chester inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum.